Let's talk about statistics. I know, for a lot of us, that word probably brings up memories of confusing formulas and maybe some pretty dry textbooks. But what if stats were actually one of the most powerful tools we have for changing people's lives for the better? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a few core statistical ideas and show you how they can drive real, tangible impact, especially in a field as vital as social work. So let's dive in. To make this real, let's just put ourselves in someone's shoes. Picture this. You are the manager of a brand new social work program. You've got clients coming in for both coaching and therapy. Your team is incredible, and you just have this gut feeling that you're really helping people. But here's the thing. In social work, a gut feeling just isn't enough. You need to know for sure. You've got the data. You have client lists, you have service records, you have feedback forms. But right now, it's all just a big sea of raw numbers. So the real challenge, the central question, is how do you turn all that information into actual knowledge? How can you stand up and say with confidence that your program is truly making a difference? Well, the very first step on this journey is to simply describe what's happening. In the biz, this is called descriptive analysis. So our manager's first job is to use the data to paint a clear, accurate picture of who their clients are and what they're actually experiencing. A fundamental tool for this is something called a frequency distribution. Now, I know it sounds super technical, right? But the idea behind it is incredibly simple. It's really just a way of counting how often something happens. How many of our clients fall into this age group? How many got that specific service? It's the very first step in organizing the chaos. So our manager puts together this table. That N you see, it just stands for the number, the frequency of clients in each group. So we can see they've got 30 clients between 18 and 29, and that makes up 30% of their total. Right away, this table gives us a much clearer snapshot than just a long, raw list of ages ever could. Now, watch what happens when we just visualize that same data. The second we turn that table into a simple bar chart, a story just jumps off the page. Instantly, you can see that your largest group of clients, by a pretty wide margin, is adults aged 60 and over. I mean, that one single insight is absolutely critical for planning and for making sure your resources are going to the right place. Okay, so we've got a handle on who our clients are. The next logical question is, what is their experience with the program actually like? What's the typical story here? To figure that out, we need to find the center of our data. So let's get specific. Our manager needs to plan for next quarter's staffing, the budget, the whole shebang. And to do that, they have to understand how people are using the services. So they pull the data for the number of sessions each and every client attended. To find that typical number of sessions, we've got three main tools in our toolkit. You've definitely heard of these. There's the mean, which is just that classic average you learned about in school. The median, that's the number that's smack dab in the middle of the list. And the mode is simply the number that shows up the most often. Let's start with the mean. After adding up all the sessions and dividing by the number of clients, our manager gets 3.6. So, on average, a client attended 3.6 sessions. It's a good starting point for sure. But is it the whole story? What if there are a few clients who attended a ton of sessions and they're kind of pulling that average up? And that's exactly why the median is so useful. If we line up every client's session count from the lowest to the highest, the number that's right in the dead center is 4. This tells us something different. Half of the clients attended 4 or fewer sessions, and the other half attended 4 or more. It's a number that isn't really affected by those extreme high or low values. And finally, we've got the mode. The single most common number of sessions that a client attended was 5. Now, here's what's so interesting. Our three numbers, the mean, the median, and the mode, are all different. And that's actually a really important clue. It tells us that the data isn't perfectly symmetrical, and it gives us a much richer, more nuanced picture of how clients are actually using the service. Knowing the average is great, but it really is only part of the story. Are most of your clients clustered right around that average, or are their experiences kind of all over the map? To understand this, we need to measure the spread, or what's called the dispersion of the data. The key tool we use to measure this is called standard deviation. And please, don't let the name intimidate you. All it really tells you is the typical distance any single data point is from the average. Think of it as one number that neatly sums up just how spread out everything is. Let's actually see it. Here's our session attendance data again. That red line in the middle, that's our mean, the average of 3.6. Those green lines represent one standard deviation away from that mean. So as you can see, most of our clients fall somewhere in that range, but there are definitely some who fall outside of it. So here is the crucial takeaway, why this really matters. A low standard deviation would mean most clients are having a very similar experience. But a high standard deviation, that tells you there is a huge variety. For our manager, a high standard deviation in, say, client satisfaction scores would be a massive red flag. It could mean that some clients love the service, while another group is deeply unhappy, signaling a problem that you need to investigate right away. So now that our manager has described the what is of their program, they can move on to the really exciting part, asking what if and why. This is the moment where we move from just describing the data to actually making inferences from it. This slide really sums up the shift perfectly. Descriptive analysis, which is everything we've been doing so far, just describes our sample. But inferential analysis uses that sample to make an educated guess, or an inference, about a much larger population. It lets us test whether a relationship we think we see is real, or if it could just be due to random chance. Okay, so our manager has a really pressing question. Is there a real significant difference in client satisfaction between the coaching service and the therapy service? This is a perfect question for inferential statistics. And to test this, we actually start by assuming there's no difference. That's our starting point, our null hypothesis. And then we see if the data is strong enough to prove that assumption wrong. Now, I know a table like this can look pretty intimidating, but let's just focus on one single number here, the p-value. You can think of the p-value as the random chance detector. It tells us the probability that the difference we're seeing is just a total fluke. Now, in the social sciences, the standard cutoff is usually 5%, or 0.05. Our p-value here is 0.005. That is way smaller. It tells us there's a very, very low probability that this result is just random. We can be really confident that there is a real difference here. So, what does this all add up to? Well, it means our manager can now move from just having hunches to having actual evidence. They've used these basic statistical tools to transform a jumble of raw numbers into real, actionable insights that can genuinely improve their program and, most importantly, better serve their clients. Let's just recap the power of what we've seen. By using these tools, our manager can now clearly understand who they're serving. They can spot hidden patterns in how services are used, they can communicate their impact to stakeholders with hard data, and they can establish a baseline to measure all their future success against. It's really about building a solid foundation of knowledge. This quote really just gets to the heart of the matter. The goal isn't to analyze data just for the sake of it. It's to move beyond stories, and I think this is working, to making decisions that are grounded in evidence. Decisions that ultimately lead to better outcomes for the people you serve. And that brings us to our final thought. Whether you're a social worker, a manager, or just someone who wants to make an impact, the answers you're looking for might just be waiting in the data. So I'll leave you with this. What is the one crucial question about your work or your community that the right data could help you answer?